Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity for middle market companies, their investors, and executive teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, and we've got some additional situational awareness items that we're tracking as tensions rise in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. Again, it's Wednesday afternoon as we record this, and there are active bombing campaigns continuing between Iran and Israel, with the U.S. publicly playing a will they, won't they game in terms of entering the fray directly. I will leave the diplomacy and the military maneuvering to the experts in those various disciplines, but there are lots of activities taking place on the digital battlefield that we aren't necessarily seeing or perhaps tracking. Reuters reported yesterday that suspected Israeli hackers, a group known as Predatory Sparrow, has deleted data at Iran's state-owned bank, Bank SIPA, and then today that same group was flagged by Zach Whitaker at TechCrunch for having wiped out at least $90 million from Iran's largest crypto exchange, Nobatex. And now monitoring groups are reporting this afternoon that a nearly nationwide blackout for internet connectivity is occurring within Iran. At the same time, Israel isn't the only one with offensive cyber capabilities at the state level. In fact, on Monday, Jonathan Grieg from The Record reported that the U.S. Department of State is now offering a $10 million reward for information on the Iranian group known as the Cyber Avengers, who are associated with and accused of targeting critical infrastructure here in the U.S. and one assumes in other adversarial countries. This reward was actually specifically posted during this widening conflict in the region. And it includes this note from the chief analyst at Google's threat intelligence group, who said that Iranian cyber actors would likely rededicate themselves to attacks on Israel in light of the recent conflict. They went on to say that, quote, Iranian cyber activity in Israel is already persistent and aggressive and has been for several years. Iranian cyber activity has not been as extensive outside of the Middle East, but could shift in light of military actions, he said. You know, the challenge, I think, for all of us in this conflict is that while we might be physically removed from the direct bombs and other physical impacts, the internet is, by definition, a network and is connected, including eventually to us wherever we may sit. So these type of escalating activities are likely to spill over in any number of ways, including the disclosure of new or novel TTPs, threats, tactics, and procedures by these threat actors who are incentivized to use their very best bag of tricks to support the existential threat they're battling against, whether you're fighting on the side of Israel or on the side of Iran. Lower grade threat actors will certainly see these TTPs and pick up on them, repurposing them for their own nefarious needs, whether that be ransomware, business email compromise, or other lower level attacks. We're also likely to see digital collateral damage, and because attribution remains such a challenge, we may see auxiliary actors like North Korea, China, Russia, or even Western countries make moves during this chaotic time, with those moves attributed either to Predatory Sparrow or Cyber Avengers or any number of the other splinter groups who are adjacent or directly involved in these conflicts. So the long story short here for our defenders is that it remains a time to be on high alert. With our defenses shored up and in place, it continues to be a very challenging landscape in which to operate, and events like this do not make it any easier. So I would suggest we all buckle up, because the next couple of weeks could either see a material escalation of these activities, particularly if the U.S. decides to enter the fray with a physical or kinetic support beyond just the intelligence and other contributions we're making today, or we could see some conclusory changes amongst the players in this game, which would also have downstream ramifications. Either way, we need to stand ready and be available and able to respond to these threats as things evolve, and ensure that we remain resilient, focusing on those things which we are responsible for in the face of these evolving challenges. From a fundraising perspective this week, back to more reasonable numbers with just over $7.3 billion in newly committed capital. We can't have $40+ billion weeks every week, but we do see a couple of articles from the Financial Times being discussed in the space that I think are interesting and worth flagging. One outlines the challenges of exit strategies for private equity funds as IPOs remain few and far between. Firms are now looking more and more at things like breakups or continuation vehicles, both of which have implications for the cyber posture of an asset as the hold period extends or shifts in structure. We also see an article from the FT's editorial board encouraging PE firms to get back to basics, quote, identifying companies with strong potential and actively building operational value, unquote. Surely cyber will be a key part of that, and we do have our work cut out for us in terms of shoring up those strong potential firms who maybe haven't made that investment over time and are arriving at this transaction with either technical debt, security debt, or both. A reminder, you can find links to all the articles we covered in the comment section below. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com. And we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.